Welcome to WZ Tales. Today's story is about a husband who discovers his wife and mother-in-law are secretly plotting to drain his money and leave him, not realizing he understands every word they say. As you listen, think about what you would do if you overheard the people you live with planning your downfall in another language. My wife said, "He's boring, but he's my ATM." I replied, "Tonight you both leave with nothing." Then I invited my lawyer in, exposed their WhatsApp messages, took back my house and money, and I just watched as court records and a desperate last visit from them finished the story for good. My name is Nicholas. I am 36, an anesthesiologist in Houston. I make around $380,000 a year. I work brutal hours, a lot of nights and weekends. About 4 years ago, before I got married, I bought a house and paid most of it in cash. The title is in my name only. My wife, Elise, is 33. She calls herself a lifestyle influencer. She has about 15,000 Instagram followers and posts about fashion and home decor. In reality, she has not had real income in years. Her family is from Sao Paulo. They used to have money, but her father's business went under. Her mother, Sophia, came to the U.S. about 18 months ago on a green card sponsorship and moved into our guest room. Since the day she arrived, she has not worked. She stays home, criticizes everything I do, and spends my money. Here is something important about me. I speak 4 languages. English, of course. Spanish because of my family background, Portuguese, and some German from my training. Elise knows about the Spanish. She assumes I picked it up from my patients. What she does not know is that I did a 2-year fellowship in Lisbon and became fluent in Portuguese. It never came up. She never asked. That detail becomes the whole story. About 6 months ago, I noticed our joint account was bleeding money. Designer boutiques, high-end furniture, random transfers. When I pulled the statements, almost $95,000 had disappeared over 2 years. Some went to Elise's personal account. Some was wired to a woman named Sofia Almeida in Brazil. I am a doctor, not a fool. I hired a private investigator. It took him 3 weeks to trace everything. The money was going to Sofia's relatives in Brazil. But the real gold was the WhatsApp messages he pulled between Elise and Sofia, all in Portuguese. He works so much overtime, the money just flows in. Another 2 years and we can get the house and his 401k, then divorce. He is boring, but at least he is an ATM that does not complain. This is where a lot of people would confront in a rage. Instead, he chose patience and documentation. I met with a divorce attorney, Jonathan Price. He has been doing family law in Houston for 20 years and handles a lot of high-asset cases. We reviewed the prenup I insisted on before the marriage. Everything I owned before the wedding stays mine. No alimony. Joint accounts are for household expenses only, not for sending money overseas. Jonathan told me to stay calm and get them to incriminate themselves clearly in their own words, so I set the stage. One night, I cooked maqueca, Brazilian fish stew, opened a good bottle of wine, acted like everything was normal. They think I am just some busy American doctor who only speaks English and watches sports. After dinner, they did what they always do. They switched to Portuguese. Sophia looked at me and said, "Look at him eating like that. No class, but at least he brings home money." Elise laughed. "You always said I should have married a rich lawyer. A doctor is close enough, I guess." Sophia said, "A few more years and you get the house, half his retirement. Then you can find someone younger." Elise answered, "I am so bored with him, but the house is in his name, so I have to wait it out." They clinked their glasses to that. There are jokes, and then there are plans. The difference is what people risk when they say them. I put my fork down, took a sip of wine, and then, still calm, I answered them in perfect Portuguese. "That is good," I said, "because tonight you are both leaving my house with empty hands." The look on their faces is something I will never forget. Elise dropped her fork. Sophia's mouth opened and nothing came out. "You speak Portuguese," Sophia finally managed. You forgot I lived in Lisbon for 2 years, I replied. Oh wait, you did not forget, you never knew, you never asked. I stood up. I have understood every word for months. Every plan, every insult, every scheme about my money, and my divorce attorney is waiting in the driveway. You should start packing. I opened the front door. Jonathan walked in with the private investigator behind him carrying a folder. They went silent. A few minutes later, we all sat back at the dining table. Jonathan put the prenup down, all 12 pages. He explained in English. I translated the important parts into Portuguese so they could not claim confusion. The house. Mine. Bought 2 years before the marriage. Title only in my name. Elise has no claim. Retirement accounts, also mine, funded by my income, joint account, for household expenses only, not to wire money to Brazil. Elise tried a different angle. You invaded my privacy by checking my accounts. I checked our account, I said. The account with my money that you were wiring to Brazil. This is a classic flip. When people are caught, they often try to make the problem your behavior, not their actions. The private investigator opened his tablet and started playing WhatsApp voice messages. Sophia and Elise talking in Portuguese. Just need to get half the house value, half his 401k. We are set. Let him work his overtime shifts, more money for us. Once we are done with him, we can move to a nice condo. Sophia tried to brush it off. It is just mother and daughter talk. You are taking it out of context. 3 years of transferring $95,000 is not a joke, I said. Jonathan slid a set of papers across the table. I had filed for divorce 2 days earlier. Elise was officially served, right there in what used to be our dining room. Jonathan laid out the immediate terms. You have 24 hours to collect your personal belongings. After that, the locks will be changed. You are not on the title, you are not on a lease. You have no legal right to stay. Sophia stood angry. What about me? I live here. No, Jonathan said. You are a guest who overstayed. If you are not out by tomorrow evening, Dr. Alvarez will file a police report for trespassing. Elise switched to begging in English. I will get a job. I will pay you back, please. You had 7 years to work, I said. You chose to send my money to your mother's family instead. Sophia tried guilt in Portuguese. You are destroying your family over money. You destroyed this family, I answered, when you called me an ATM at my own dinner table. The next 24 hours were chaos. Elise packed her designer clothes and ring lights. Sophia tried every guilt trip she knew. I stayed quiet and let Jonathan handle it. By Sunday evening, they were gone. I helped load the last suitcase into Elise's car. Then I walked back inside. Their wine glasses were still on the table. The prenup papers were still there. Elise's wedding ring sat alone. I sat down and stayed there for an hour. 7 years, and she had never cared enough to ask about my fellowship in Lisbon. Never asked which languages I spoke. Never asked about my life beyond what I could buy. The money hurt. $95,000 is not nothing. But what cut deeper was the disrespect. Sitting in my house, eating food I cooked, drinking wine I bought, while planning to rob me and laughing in a language they thought I did not understand. They forgot that my job is literally to pay attention. The court date was 6 weeks later. In the meantime, Elise took her story to social media. She posted about surviving an abusive marriage and starting over with nothing. My friends sent me screenshots. I did not respond. The funny part is she was not starting over with nothing. She was starting over with exactly what she brought into the marriage: a shaky influencer career and expensive taste in shoes. When the hearing came, she pushed it further. She filed a claim of emotional and financial abuse. She wanted a protective order to force me out of my own house while the divorce was ongoing. She claimed I controlled all the money, isolated her, and screamed at her regularly. She told the court I threw dinner plates at her during an argument, blocked her access to funds, and threatened her when she tried to leave. The judge asked her to describe my temper. She cried and painted me as a man who came home from the hospital and exploded. Then the judge turned to me. My attorney stood. "Your Honor, my client has video evidence that contradicts these claims." 3 years earlier, after a break-and-scare in our neighborhood, Elise herself had suggested we get a home security system. Cameras in the living room, kitchen, and entryway, all cloud-backed. We pulled the footage from the night she claimed I threw dishes. The video showed Elise, alone with Sophia, arguing in Portuguese. Elise threw a glass at the wall. I was not even home. I was on a 12-hour shift at the hospital. The judge watched the whole thing and then looked at Elise. "You lied to this court," she said. Her lawyer tried to spin it as a misremembered date. The judge was not impressed. "There is a difference between misremembering and fabricating abuse," she said. The protective order was denied. The judge even warned Elise that lying in court could have consequences. Then we moved on to the divorce itself. Her lawyer argued for spousal support. They said she gave up her influencer career to support my medical practice. They claimed she added value to the home by decorating it. Jonathan pulled out receipts. Every piece of furniture, every decoration, every renovation, all paid with my cards. Elise's total documented income over 7 years of marriage was about $4,200. Meanwhile, she had spent more than $200,000 on her content and lifestyle. The prenup held no alimony, no share of the house, no share of my retirement. Then Jonathan brought up the $95,000 from the joint account. The judge read the prenup clause. The joint account was for household expenses only. Wiring money to Brazil for Sophia's relatives did not qualify. Judgment in my favor. $95,000 plus court costs. Elise now has to pay it back. When she works, her wages will be garnished. It will probably take years, but the judgment sits on her credit report. It follows her everywhere. Sophia's situation got complicated too. Enough money moving overseas raised some flags. Her immigration status was reviewed. Not my doing, but it happened. She ended up back in Brazil. After the hearing, Elise tried to approach me in the parking lot. Her lawyer stopped her. Jonathan walked me to my car and said, "In 20 years of doing this, I have rarely seen anyone destroy their own case like this." She could have walked away quietly under the prenup. Instead, she lied and turned herself into the problem. I went home to a quiet house, poured a drink, and sat on the back porch. They had tried to rob me. When I caught them, they tried to paint me as an abuser. Now the court record shows exactly what happened. Weeks later, we were almost at the end when they tried one last time. One evening, my doorbell rang. I had just come home from a shift, still in scrubs. Standing at my door were Sophia, a priest from her Brazilian church, and behind them, Elise. Sophia started in Portuguese. "Nicholas, we need to talk as a family." "We are not family," I answered in English. "You have 5 seconds to start leaving my property." The priest stepped forward and tried to speak calmly. Sophia launched into a long speech about forgiveness, how I had destroyed the family over money, how Elise was willing to work now and pay back every cent if I took her back. Then Sophia pulled out papers. An agreement. Elise would get a part-time job and pay $500 a month toward expenses. Sophia would move back in and help with housework as her contribution. I would drop the $95,000 judgment and we would do church counseling. They really thought they could negotiate their way back into the same house. I looked at Elise. "Did you write this or did your mother?" "We both did," she said quietly. "I know I messed up, but 7 years should count for something." "You are right," I said. 7 years of you stealing from me, calling me an ATM, and planning to divorce me once you took enough. That counts for a lot." Sophia switched to English and raised her voice. "You selfish man. You make so much money. What is 95,000 to you? You destroyed my daughter's life over nothing." I took out my phone and opened an email. It was from my lawyer. Elise's new employer, a marketing firm, had already fired her for using company resources for her personal influencer work. Then I opened another file from the investigator. It showed that 6 months before I went to my lawyer, Elise had already consulted a divorce attorney of her own. The notes included suggestions to wait until I had contributed more to the joint account to maximize marital assets. They had a timeline. They were just waiting to squeeze more out of me. I turned to the priest. "Father, I am not interested in reconciliation. I am interested in them leaving my property. They did not just hurt feelings, they stole and lied." Sophia tried to pull out a checkbook. "Fine, I will write a check now, 95,000. I almost laughed. That account had around $1,200 in it, I already knew. "You keep those papers," I said. "Frame them. That is as close as you are getting to my house or my money again. The judgment stands. The divorce is final. If either of you come back here, I will call the police." The priest looked at my phone, at the emails and notes. His face changed. He gently guided them back toward the car. Elise lingered for a moment. "I really thought you would never find out," she said quietly. "I know," I answered. "That is the problem." "For what it is worth," she added, "I am sorry." "No," I said. "You are sorry you got caught." She did not argue. Later, I found out she is working at a Target now, making around $13 an hour. At that rate, she will be paying off the judgment well into her 50s. Sophia's visa issues mean she will not be back in the U.S. anytime soon. As for me, my life is simple now. I changed the locks again and upgraded to smart locks. My brother helped me move furniture around. The guest room where Sophia lived is now my home office. I put in a standing desk, a good chair, and mounted my diplomas on the wall, including the one from my fellowship in Lisbon, written in Portuguese. I started going to the gym before work. I meal prep on Sundays. I spend evenings on the back porch sometimes, just listening to the quiet. No one criticizing my clothes in another language, no one laughing at me over breakfast, just silence and my own thoughts. My lawyer called recently. Elise's lawyer offered to lower the judgment if I would take a smaller lump sum. I told him to reply with one word: no. At this point, the money is not the point. The principle is, they do not get to steal from me and lie about me, then bargain when reality hits. For the first time in years, I have the energy to see friends. A few colleagues invited me out for drinks. When I finished telling them the story, one of them said, "You dodged a bullet." "No," I said. "I took the bullet for 7 years, then I finally stepped out of the way." They thought I was still the same man who would let them walk over him, work 80 hours a week, and never ask questions. The ATM who did not understand Portuguese. That man is gone. Here are some of the lessons I take from this. Lesson 1. If someone is only interested in your money and your status, but never asks about your life, your past, or your skills, that is not love. That is extraction. Lesson 2. Jokes about waiting it out for your house, your retirement, or your death are not always jokes. Pay attention when people talk about money behind your back. Lesson 3. A prenup is not unromantic. It is protection, especially when there is a big financial imbalance. Lesson 4. When someone lies about abuse to gain leverage in court, they are telling you very clearly who they are. Believe that and protect yourself. Lesson 5. You are allowed to walk away from people who see you as an ATM, a plan, or a ticket out. You do not owe them your future because of your past. Lesson 6. Peace and self-respect are worth far more than staying in a house full of hidden conversations and quiet contempt. What about you? If you discovered your partner and their parent talking like this about you in another language, what would you have done? And do you think he waited too long to act, or did he choose the right moment? Share your thoughts in the comments.